I'm Jessica Hamslachek-Treadwell with the Wichita Foundation. Welcome to our Professional Advisor video series, where we sit down with trusted members of our Professional Advisor Council. These are experts in their fields that we know, we work with, and truly trust. They work every day helping people navigate important decisions about their finances, their legacies, and their community impact. Our hope is that these videos and short conversations are helpful for fund holders and donors, nonprofits, and anyone thinking about how to give well now and in the future. Today's topic is year-end tax planning, and I'm joined by Shalena Hatfield, CPA and partner at Regier Carr and Monroe. Welcome, Shalena.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you. Well, this is a big topic and one people are definitely starting to think about as we near the end of the calendar year. So to begin, let's start with, we really need to know, what are the key deadlines and actions that donors should keep in mind before the year end?
Well, as you said, we're getting close to the end of the year, the December 31st deadline. We always want to be mindful of that. And as we're thinking about making some larger donations, we want to think about giving our wealth manager a little bit of time to trigger those. So it's easy enough for us to write a check out of our checkbook. That we know that's easy to do.
Sure.
But they need sometimes to process particular paperwork. And if we're going to do a stock donation, they need time to get that settled and triggered so that they can get the funding to the right place. So sometimes there's multiple steps in making a donation happen. So we want to give enough leeway for that to happen. I think a lot of wealth advisory firms require an early December to, early to very early mid-December deadline to make those happen.
Yeah. So, I know sometimes nonprofits will give receipts at the time of the gift, and then sometimes they will wait through the whole year if it's a sustaining membership or something like that, and then give their receipt in January. So trying to create a folder or something to keep track of those receipts might be helpful.
That can be one of the biggest challenges with donations. If we get a receipt early and then we lose sight of it, a lot of charities are willing to make a duplicate copy so that we can have that in our file. The IRS requires us to have contemporaneous documentation. What that means is that we need that documentation in hand. If they request a copy of our support to prove that we made a donation, there's multiple court cases out there that tell us that they can disallow a donation if we don't have the proper documentation in hand at that moment. They do not allow us additional time to go back and track it down after the fact. Sure. So it's very important to have that with us.
Do you know of any giving strategies that might help reduce taxable income while supporting local nonprofits?
There are some really great avenues to achieve this. There are some strategies. So some of the wealthier taxpayers that have large giving on a regular basis, they're able to itemize their deductions and take advantage every year of that ability. For maybe someone who has a little less income, maybe a little lower deductions, they might want to take advantage of one of a couple of different strategies. They can bunch their donations, which would mean maybe you give a little more this year to the charity that you are most invested in, and then maybe you back off for a year or two, and that way you can take advantage of the full itemized deduction in that first year.
Yeah.
And they can do that directly to the charity, or there's another opportunity that they could make that contribution into a donor advised fund. And when they make that donation, maybe they don't know where they want to put those funds charitably right now. And it gives them some time to go ahead and make the donation today into a managed fund, and then make the decisions later on at a future time to steer those dollars where they feel will have the most impact. And it also gives them an opportunity to watch the funds grow. And so if those are invested in appreciating assets, then we can give more in the future out of that fund than we can today.
Sure.
And it's an opportunity to do some legacy funding there. We can get the family involved in helping us make some of those decisions. So there's some interesting timing and education with our kiddos. You know, we want to bring them along with us and get them in the mindset of planting for the future,
Sure.
paying it forward and taking care of our community. So all good things.
Yeah, teaching the next generation to be philanthropic
Yes.
should be a goal for all of us. So if we were to go back to the different strategies, of course, donor advised funds is a big fan of the Wichita Foundations. We love helping people, create a fund that fits their needs, but also has a big community impact. If we dive in a little bit deeper, how can donors use minimum required distributions or appreciated stock for charitable giving?
Two really great questions. The charitable distributions from an IRA are an opportunity to make a larger donation out of one's retirement fund, and we can sidestep paying the tax on that income and also get it directly to the charity. Now, there are some limits on that. But for a lot of people, a lot of donors, those limits are very friendly. So we need to be age 70 and a half before we can do one of these. But for 2025, the limit is $108,000 per spouse. So if you're both over age 70 and a half, you can each give $108,000, and that comes directly out of the IRA, and it can offset our required minimum distribution. So let's say we have $110,000 required minimum distribution for this year. Now, I'm just looking at one, either the taxpayer or the spouse. We could carve out up to $108,000 of that to go directly to the charity, and we don't have to pay income tax on that. It reduces our adjusted gross income, and then the other $2,000 would be taxable. So that's a great example of how we can reduce our taxable income directly, and then the charity benefits without having net of tax dollars funded to them. They get the full $108,000 benefit.
These are some incredible ways to support your community. Sometimes people are looking for creative ways or even strategies on how to extend their charitable giving. Are there any strategies that you have seen that people might overlook?
For the wealthier individuals, they might want to consider a charitable remainder trust, and their wealth manager, attorney, might need to be involved with helping them establish those, but those can create some very large legacy gifts. One of the biggest tools of the charitable remainder trust is really to help wealthier families reduce the tax burden on their estate. So it's a large estate planning tool. And so that's just one more way to pay it forward. And also it's good. Those are the types of things that are a good idea to visit with the family about and communicate and make sure that they're aware of intentions and just get everyone on board with just that philanthropic idea of supporting the community and paying it forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we're heading closer to the end of the year, are there any common mistakes that people make?
Yes, Jessica. One of the common mistakes is just missing the deadline. So we want to be mindful of our timing of when do we need to make a donation, if we want to trigger it by the end of the year, or if we want to make it happen next year. And some of what goes into that analysis is thinking about, okay, is my taxable income higher this year? Do I need more deductions this year? Is it higher next year? And so maybe we intentionally go past that deadline, but it's a good thing to sometimes, if we're thinking about a larger donation, it's a good idea to also bring your tax advisor into the discussion of the thought process to make sure that the timing of when we're doing it is the best. Obviously, our focus should be on benefit to the charity and the community. But the tax implication is also important because that keeps more dollars in the donor's pocket so that they have more to give in the future.
I think this was incredible. Obviously, trying to keep track of all of your receipts is important. And then working with your team and staying, connected to your tax planner, your CPA is obviously very important because they know all this information and can keep track of it way in advance of the end of the calendar year. So thank you, Shalena. That was a lot of information, but really, really helpful, especially as we're nearing the end of the year. We hope this conversation sparked some new ideas or gave you helpful next steps to think about. If you have questions or want to learn more about how the Wichita Foundation can support your giving or planning, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you found this useful, feel free to share it with others. Thanks again to Shalena with Regier Carr and Monroe for the great info. And we'll see you next time.